Just to give you a bit of background, I'm Catherine Taves, a CPA, CGA, and Flourishing Workplace Facilitator with over 25 years of both corporate finance and entrepreneurial experience, as well as over 12 years of various life coaching roles. So I have been around the block enough times to really appreciate the profound significance a healthy, flourishing work environment can have on the lives of everybody in an organization. And it's not just about work life, it's about what you take home to your relationships, what you take home to your community. And I am joined today by my colleague, Brad Brunel, who is our business development director, a certified leadership coach, and a trusted authority on interpersonal relationships, public relations, and facilitating occupational workplace coaching for over 20 years. He will be speaking as well as we get further into our presentation. Is there anyone here who would prefer to have just skipped 2020? I'm pretty sure we could all agree with Dr. Emmett Brown when he says, Marty, whatever you do, do not set it to the year 2020. I think, it's safe to say that due to COVID, many businesses are really struggling, in some cases struggling just to stay open, and in other cases struggling with retaining staff, with hiring people, and all at the same time trying to create a culture that is healthy and motivating, where people really want to come to work. Behind an effective workplace culture is a sense of community that encourages employees to feel like they belong. And that this is all done in a context of safety, particularly as it relates to mental health. So if any of these challenges sound familiar, be rest assured you're not alone. This is a worldwide problem. Gallup has done surveys in 116 different countries and found that 7 out of 10 employees are really struggling. Now, case in point, do any of you here today know of someone in your workplace or your community that's really struggling? Like, I know I sure do. And perhaps if we don't know, it's just because some of these people are, really afraid to speak up. And, these are sobering thoughts. There's been a rise in negative emotions like worry and sadness and anger over the last decade. So not even just during COVID. And so even if there is some kind of return to normal, the trends are still really concerning. An interesting point that Gallup makes is that many of the underlying issues really aren't new. It's just that COVID has exposed them. Although the US and Canada report the highest rates of daily stress, it is actually a global problem. The highest rate of stress is among women in the workforce. Research indicates that 62% of women are daily highly stressed at work. And I think, it's well established, even in the medical community, that stress is the root cause of most physical and mental health problems. So, it really takes this situation to a whole other level of concern. The US and Canada typically lead the world in employee engagement. However, currently, only 1 in 5 Canadians are engaged at work. 80% of Canadians are either watching the clock, or just doing the bare minimum that they can do to collect their paycheck. So the ability to demonstrate to people that what they do matters is extremely important to encourage employee engagement. Best practice organizations typically see engagement at over 70%. So leaders really need to be able to articulate to their people, to their employees, just how they are adding value. So all that to say, the toxic workplace is real. 26% of American workers say they dread going to work. And according to a recruitment agency, Robert Half, 62% of Canadians are feeling stuck in their jobs, often due to burnout or just feeling like there's a lack of opportunity for career development. During COVID, employees have had a lot of time on their hands, and in most cases, they've had a lot of time to think about where they want to work and why. And as a result, there's been an exodus from organizations in all sectors. Almost half of employees are feeling less connected to their company and their colleagues than they did before the pandemic. Partially thanks to Zoom. And, Zoom is a wonderful thing. I wouldn't be able to present to you today if it wasn't for Zoom, but it doesn't fully replace the real human connection. So, does sunshine ever call to you? I hope it does. How about the mountains or the forest? Just feel so fortunate to be living in this amazing valley where all of this beauty is basically just right outside our front door. Another workplace challenge being faced is that many customers and clients are so overwhelmed and stressed by the pandemic that they are, shall we say, somewhat tightly wound, which can translate into impatient, demanding, and sometimes even really rude behavior. And this puts even more pressure on your staff. And so it's really important to for leaders to determine how their business culture has shifted during the pandemic. And this is something we can help you with. We have assessment tools, we have online resources giving you the information that you need in order to adapt and pivot in the most effective and efficient way. We really want to help you build a culture where employees find what they need to thrive while staying exactly where they are. When people feel they're valued and are platformed to contribute to it, productivity and profits will result. Now, you may be thinking that I've painted a rather bleak picture of the current situation. And one thing I just want to be clear about is that, this isn't to make anyone feel defeated. I'm certain you are all caring and capable leaders, or you wouldn't be listening to this, right? And so it's not about pointing a finger, but rather helping and empowering you. Because I think even with the best of intentions and having a genuine heart for our employees, when time and resources are scarce, it's just hard. And I couldn't blame you if you might be thinking, like, seriously, I'm already maxed out. just trying to keep my business afloat. How am I going to find time for all this culture and mental health stuff? And that is a really good and valid question. Fortunately, we have the answer man with us today because he knows firsthand the impact that well-meaning but stress-riddled culture or workplace misalignment can have on both physical and mental health. So I will hand it over to you, Brad.
Great. So thanks so much, Catherine, for that, and for both Teresa, both of you here. Thank you again for the opportunity to connect, and again, and Catherine is such a a great team, part of the team here, and love that you guys are out there together. So I'm coming in from Calgary, and right now on this, and but you guys could probably identify with this a little bit, but 3 ways leading your team will not work, going forward in 2022 soon here, but still into this year. But and maybe you can recognize this, but people are simply tools for generating profit, and we know that's not going to work. That's not going to be good. Going forward, profit is the outcome of caring for people in the workplace. Train people right, and the culture will thrive. Often we can think about that. Hey, if I give them the right tools in their hands, and the right training, well, things are going to be great. But then we still have outcomes where mental health is still climbing, versus treating people right, and then the culture will thrive. And then people are totally responsible for their own mental health. Now, of course, we each need to have a sense of empowerment, not victimization or codependency, but together we're not meant to do life alone. And that doesn't matter where we're at in the sense of community, whether it's at a home or in a workplace. Going forward, the workplace creates a culture that supports team mental health and belonging. And the reality is, right now, we know that we spend probably about 2/3 of our time between sleep and work. And so, our workplaces, as you know, are a major conduit to mental health, and providing that support, which then impacts when we go home. We pack up our bag and we leave, and we go to our home, to our loved ones, to our marriage, to our kids, to our animals, to whatever we have with us. That impacts. It's not like in Vegas where it's like, oh, this statement, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, which never really stays there. What happens in you goes with you. And so you might leave the paperwork at the door, but what happens in the environment, as you and I know, goes with us and projects into the world around us. And that's the neuroscience of mirroring the environments that we're in. And so, of course, this is a massive opportunity then for you as leaders to have a framework to support mental health in the workplace. And in creating that, we want to create a flourishing workplace. There's often been a term right now, it's been in the news often as well, and psychologists use this term called languishing. And it may not be in this depressive state, but you're in between flourishing and depressive, but we're just kind of like just language. People are just having this lack of engagement in themselves and in the workplace right now. We're trying to be in a survival mode versus a thriving mode. And so, we want to help create, a framework for that that's different, because the flourishing workplace is the result of an evidence-based framework. And so here's something that's neat about this, that this is the only evidence-based approach to flourishing in life and flourishing when it comes to the workplace. And so what it's not is a Band-Aid approach or a firefighter program. I've talked to a lot of companies where this is the concern. We know that people don't change overnight. Culture does not change overnight. And we're not in there to change a vision or a mission. The organization sets that in place. We want to support that. But have literally sat down with companies who've been around for a while and see tears flowing from the top down in the executive teams, because they care and they really want to see support. But we can't have this Band-Aid approach. This is not external temporary EAP. EAPs are good, but they are outsourced, as you know. They're a quick fix for that person, but they don't contribute to the inner working of the team dynamic and the culture together working through something. And this is just not another course or program to add to the HR box. Check it off. We did our thing. We sent the emails out. Make sure you get this done. Okay, we're good. But again, what do we do as humans often if we don't have a long-term solution and nurturing? We default back to the way we work, because we caught up with everything. We still got to get objectives done. We got to take care of business. And then inside of us in a mental, emotional state, things are still happening, whether it's from the workplace or it's from home. We bring that filter, that lens in. And so this isn't a short-term solution, and I'll kind of explain that in a moment. And certainly this is not adding more stress, like, oh, like Catherine said, is this another thing to take on? Actually, we don't say, here you go, here's the training, figure it out, 2 thumbs up. We actually come and relieve that. We actually come alongside and support, facilitate, and coach, and work with you and walk on the journey over a period of time. And so it's not like, oh, here's another thing type thing. And so some things to think about, what is your current and up-to-date plan for mental health and psychological safety? What do you have in place, and is it relevant and current to today? There's a lot of stuff out there that is outdated. There has been billions of dollars in Canada alone invested into mental health, into the workplace, and some of the top research has shown it's ineffective to this day, and it's skyrocketing as far as mental health. What will things look like 6 months from now if you were to look at it? Where are the gaps? So maybe you have something in place, maybe you don't, but where are the gaps, where are the soft spots? And knowing that 23% of employees are too afraid to actually talk to their employers about, let's just say employers, but employers, about how they're really thinking, feeling for whatever reason. It may not be that there's something that they're scared of their employer, but the role and the relationship could be, it's a different dynamic, and maybe they have different insecurities or fears about certain things, or have opinion or whatever it might be. And so 23% in Canada aren't really sharing their honest feelings about how they feel. And that adds into more stress, because when you suppress, you then have stress, and that projects. What's your current budget for mental health? It's important to know that. If there's not something there, definitely you want to look at that, because the government often is requiring that there is something there for not just physical safety, but psychological safety. Now, it doesn't take much for someone to feel a certain way and bring out a lawsuit. And if there's something in place in advance that shows that the company has been putting something in place to support culture, team mental health, then that is to your advantage. It's a win-win on both ends. And there are opportunities to look into a potential subsidy from the province, and we can work with teams to look at that and how that works in BC. And each province says it's a little bit different in each province, the amounts and allocations and stuff, but that is also something when you're looking at budgets, that there can be an opportunity there to help. Wouldn't it make sense to have a discovery call? There's no pressure, there's no obligations, but just to hear where you're at, what you have in plan, what is the current pain points that you're looking at. And so when we're looking at the Flourishing Workplace specifically, the framework we're talking about, that blueprint focused on 7 key pillars. You can see some of them are listed here, starting at the top with flourishing people. And we want you guys to know that, at the end of the day, it's all about people first. I know that can sound like a cliche, over the years, but we actually authentically care, as you do as well. And sometimes it gets flipped. We say these things in companies and, we mean these things, but then we get caught up. And so, but it's more than just customer service. It is the lifeblood, the value of each person and what they can bring and contribute, their sense of purpose in themselves and in conjunction with the company, the leadership quotient that we have as leaders, which is fearless presence. We're looking at, our character, our sense of security as a leader, how we engage as leaders as well, and then our performance, and our practices, and those look at, beyond the individual heart and mind soul work that we can look at and dig into beneath the surface and really help someone thrive. Is also, okay, well, how do we have high performance habits? How do we get things done? Like, we still got to have business and make it happen, but then how do we do that? How do we manage the time? How do we do a lot of these things that people do struggle with? I see this often in companies, corporate companies, big companies, small companies, and how we equip them, because a lot of this stuff is not learned in school. And so, and fair play, hey, when we know we're having fun, everything else goes better. And so It's important to talk about creativity and fun and engagement and how to do that and keep it going and nurturing that. And then policy, which is important to go into. All that results into positive workplace, productive workplace, and a profitable workplace. When we put people first, and again, it's not about pointing fingers about anybody. It's not even saying, hey, your place is toxic at all, but it's about creating a culture that thrives. And, what we look at, we have a couple different ways of presenting, options to companies and what they generally look at. I can explain. What we do is, generally speaking, we want to walk with you on a journey. And again, it's not a firefighter program or just check it off type thing, but we will do a free consultation, no obligation, but just a free consultation to hear your story, to hear, hey, what are the wins? What mountains are you conquering? And but also what ones are yet to be conquered? What are some challenges going on right now? And then what we do is we have an assessment, and you can see in the fourth line says 2 Flourishing Workplace questionnaires called an FLQ. These are not tests. These are assessments that take a holistic look, produced by one of our doctors, is very accurate in its assessment as to the competencies of someone's skills, but also their own individual state and where they're at emotionally, mentally, the workplace, the environment, the home, their social influences. It holistically looks at their whole life, and there's no way to fail this. It's not a right or wrong type thing, but it does give a percentage of where areas are at in someone's life at the moment, and where can there be room for improvement or tension. This assessment is not seen by us unless we do one-on-one coaching. It's not seen by the boss. It's not seen by each other. So that also gives the freedom for them to feel like, okay, I can just be fully open, because 23% of people don't actually want to share. And it's amazing what we see when we go over this and talk about it in coaching sessions with companies, because it really gets below the surface. And, when you take a plant and you transplant a plant, you put it from a pot into a garden, and it's, in that garden, and nurture it and you tend it, that's going to, flourish and grow and be well. You can take that same potted plant and put it into, a slab of fresh concrete, and it's going to look fine for the moment, but its environment is not sustainable to its growth. And in time, it's going to harden, it's going to die, it's not going to flourish, even though it looked okay. And so when we work with you, we're helping create that, that nurturing environment to walk with you. There's a 27-page module, 27 course module, online, which is great. It's can be accessed anywhere in the world. Each module is an average of 11, 12 minutes. So it's a very doable audio, video, plus we have an experiential downloadable playbook that goes along with it. Very high value content in it. And then we kind of walk with the team. Okay, how do you want to work through this? What to focus on? How do you go through this with your team, with each other? And then we do group coaching with the teams. And so we will do group coaching sessions, and then we'll also do one-on-one coaching, which is a part of our premium package as well, which includes a few extra resources in that as well, and more people. So the one-on-one you can see is on here, and a few other resources. This is great. This is where people are like, this is awesome, because even when you talk to people in the CPS, which is Cover Your Please, or EMS type things, and there's thousands of programs out there. This is not another program. This is a hands-on personal touch of current relevant evidence-based approach to, hey, let's tailor a roadmap that works for you. Let's customize it. It's not cookie cutter. What's going to work for your team? And we're actually going to walk with you for 3 months, 6 months, maybe it's a year, because we want to see and support growth that's sustainable, and cheer you on and celebrate you on along the way, and your team. Because I know that you guys out there, and I'm, we'll be out here as well. One, retaining, talent in your workplace can be tough at times, or hiring and finding the right people, but also dealing with projections of people coming in as customers, the stress that they have as well, that's on them, and how to handle that, yet still keep the team rapport growing and thriving, and not just trying to get through the day and make things happen. And so we will work with you in this process, and it's great because it's totally customizable. And sometimes what we might do is say, we'll work with the executive team, and then from there go through it and pick kind of which pillars and stuff might be more we really like to focus on as company with the rest of our team, or sometimes companies might do the whole like everybody at once, and all of this is customizable. So and then we can do workshops as well. And so we know that with COVID there are struggles going on. Team culture is definitely feeling overwhelmed, and so this is a process that's simple and evidence-based, and helps improve your bottom line. And so would like to ask if you have any questions, Therese, and as well anyone who's watching this as a recording, we would love to be in connection with you as well, and book a discovery call. Again, there's no pressure in it, but we really care, and companies like yours have been using the Flourishing Workplace, and you see some pretty powerful transformations, because we don't want to provide information. We want to see authentic transformation take place. We're a team of coaches, counselors with psychology background behind the content, and we really do care.